What's going on, my trainer club? Today we're going to check out the new Mewtwo move to make sure that you know, is it going to be worth your time to power this one up, or is it better for you to get an old one with the Shadow Ball moveset as a lucky trade? So, welcome to the trainer club. Here we go! Welcome back, everybody. Today we are going to be checking out one of my favorite topics, one of my favorite series that we do. We are doing the best of the best, which is going to include the Mewtwo with the new move Psystrike. So what we're going to check out today is number 1, where his DPS is, number 2, where his total damage output is, number 3, where the combination of those two is, and then we're going to use our trainer brains to make sure we know exactly what to do. So drop in the comments and let me know, how excited are you to do a Mewtwo in Pokemon Go? And I know I usually don't put this out until after it's out, but I wanted to get a head start just in case you guys are maybe doing some things. Maybe you guys have some lucky trades saved up. Maybe you guys are super hyped on the shiny, which I am too. I'm excited to get that shiny. It's going to be amazing, and the psychic move seems to be pretty good on paper. So drop in the comments, let me know about this Mewtwo. So here we go. We are going to cover a couple different topics today, just like I said before. If, however, you have already heard my videos, you know what TDO is, you know what DPS is, you know what DPS times TDO is, I'm going to pin the timestamp in my comments below so that you can skip over the introduction and you can get right into the details, which is exactly what some of you need. Some of you guys want a refresher to make sure you know what you're doing. So here we go. Number 1 thing we're going to cover is DPS. I'm just going to put an asterisk here because we have had a new move that has come out, which we will be covering in a video or two, which includes a very high DPS Pokemon. And I think DPS for myself is like one of those things that's like superficial, front end kind of muscle, right? It's like, it's not really necessarily the most functional thing that we have out there. So some of my trainers that are in my Patreon Discord, my exclusive Patreon Discord, were asking me, would I power up this particular Pokemon with its new movesets? And I said no, because number 1, it's a glass cannon. So DPS doesn't really have the number 1 reigning supreme, like you have to do it because it's the DPS. Stands for damage per second. It comes and takes into account the stab effectiveness, which means, is it going to be good based on the moveset and in combination with the typing of that Pokemon? Like for this one, we're covering Mewtwo, so we're going to look at the psychic Pokemon, which is Mewtwo. Psychic, he's getting a psychic move, which means he has the stab effectiveness, which is going to be better for him. So DPS is a lot like, and I compared it to in my Discord, it's going to be similar to like having a car with a lot of horsepower, a lot of torque, but the car is way too light and it cannot use all of that torque, right? Imagine a car that has so much horsepower that as soon as you slam on the gas full throttle, it spins out and goes in a circle, right? That horsepower is not utilized properly. But if it has a little bit heavier and it has the combination of the horsepower and it can take off from the goal line, it's going to be used a lot more. So the DPS is going to be like having a ton of horsepower. Doesn't mean that it's going to be the best. So as far as the TDO goes, it stands for total damage output. Total damage output is basically going to be over the lifespan of the Pokemon, how much damage can it deliver, right? And think about this more of like tanky Pokemon. If we're going back to the car example, think of like a really heavy car that has no problem accelerating but doesn't necessarily have a fast acceleration, right? That's what we're looking at here. Think of like a Ho-Oh, a Lugia, a really tanky type Pokemon that doesn't necessarily deliver high DPS. You may not see like a Lugia in any of the psychic counter videos that we've ever checked out, but it will last for quite a while. It's like that anchor Pokemon that if you need 6 and 1 to survive, that's what it's going to be. Now we're going to look at TDO times DPS as the third most, right? So DPS and TDO combined is really going to be the ultimate check, because it's going to be how much damage can it do over the lifespan of the Pokemon. So really high DPS guys that have very low life are going to rank lower on this stat, and the really high TDO guys, really low DPS guys are also going to rank lower, right? Because you need the perfect combination. The perfect combination here is going to be like a really fast car that is perfectly weighted and can take off and go, and it will not spin out when you slam the gas down because it's weighted properly. It has just the right amount of torque, right amount of acceleration, right amount of horsepower, and then it is off to the races. So think about that like this, but then we want to go one step further and we want to check out, is the car cool and does it work properly, right? And that's going to be our trainer brains checking out this Pokemon. Like, is it going to be the most effective move because it's a 2-bar move, or is it a 3-bar move, or is it a 1-bar move, or is there another Pokemon that's very close that has a 2-bar move, because the 2-bar moves are going to get off more frequently and we won't die out with half a full bar charged up. So that's going to be us using our trainer brains to be able to get you there, right? We want to get you there there. We want to know exactly what the best Pokemon is, exactly where to utilize our Stardust, because we all have our benchmarks. You guys have checked out my Stardust saving video. You know exactly what to do. You're saving your Stardust for useful, or as referred to by other people, meta-relevant Pokemon, meaning that they actually can do something in the game. They are not just a surface level Pokemon. Like, I have a Pidgeot powered up and maxed. Never gonna use it for anything really, right? Like, it's like 2100. I just really like that Pokemon. I have a ton of Stardust, and I was like, I really just wanna max 100% Pidgeot because I had one, and I maxed it. I have never used it, honestly. I've never used it. I'm sure I could use it in gym battles to take down some Pokemon, but not like a T-Tar and other things like that, right? Like, I could use it for its typing, but beyond that, it's useless, right? So that's what we're talking about, meta-relevant Pokemon. That's what we're talking about, why we do these best of the best, so that when you guys power stuff up, we are literally using our resources for the best of the best to make sure that you guys have the best going forward in Pokemon Go. So the one thing that we're also gonna do after we do the Psychic comparison, we're gonna compare the Mewtwo with the Shadow Ball to the Mewtwo with the Psystrike. So you guys can check out what you think about this moveset, and so that we can make our best educated guess on which Mewtwo is going to be, and if it is going to be worth to power up one without the Shadow Ball, or if it is going to be potential that if we could TM it, would it be best to have a Shadow Ball and a Psystrike combination. All right, so number one, we are going to get into the DPS. Like I said before, DPS, damage per second. How much damage, strictly damage, can this Pokemon do? Let's get into this right now to check out the Psychic Pokemon. What is the best of the best, and does Mewtwo with Psystrike measure up? All right, guys, so getting right into this, we're going to check out the Deoxys attack form, number one spot, Zen Headbutt Psycho Boost, 19,456, right? So like I told you before, DPS does not mean it's going to be the best Pokemon. Then we're going to look at the Mewtwo with the Confusion Psychic at 16.55. So right here, we are going to insert the Mewtwo with Confusion and Psystrike at 17.043, as well as the Mewtwo with Confusion Psychic at 16.55. So that's where it's going to be, in between that Deoxys attack and the Mewtwo regular. Then we're going to look at the Azelf, right, with the Confusion Future Sight 16.275, another Azelf, and then we look at Alakazam Confusion Future Sight at 16.039. We have the Espeon with the Confusion Future Sight at 15.621. Deoxys normal form, Mewtwo, Alakazam again. If you guys want to pause on the second page, you can go ahead and do so, but I just want to point out one thing to you guys. The Metagross with the Zen Headbutt Psychic 13.319, and then you can also check out the Latios, who is also Psychic, Zen Headbutt and Psychic 13.85, and then the Executor, and then onto the third page. Like I said before, if you want to go ahead and pause this and check out any of those other things, if you guys are gung-ho about that Jirachi, he's actually in the 30th spot as far as Psychic Pokemon attackers go. All right, guys, so that's the DPS. Notice how the Deoxys is all the way at the top, right? And now we're going to go on to the TDO. TDO, total damage output over the lifespan of the Pokemon. Looking at probably more tanky Pokemon, we're probably going to see a little bit of a shakeup here unless we have really consistent Pokemon. We will see a different type of Pokemon, because total damage output over the lifespan of the Pokemon, how much damage is this Pokemon going to do, usually favors more of the tanky Pokemon. So here we go, checking out the TDO right now. And just like we thought, sitting at top, we have a shakeup. Look at that. Lugia Extrasensory Future Sight, 667. Then we have the Armored Mewtwo, Confusion Future Sight at 527. Then we have the regular Mewtwo coming in here with the Confusion Psychic at 518. We actually have the Mewtwo with the Confusion Psystrike at 533. So he is semi-decently tanky. He sits up there, and he is also going to do a decent amount of damage as well, which is pretty cool, right? It's going to be in between actually the Lugia and the Armored Mewtwo. It's going to be above the Armored Mewtwo as TDO, which is extremely surprising actually. Then we're going to look at the Cresselia Confusion Future Sight, 506, another Cresselia. Then we have Mewtwo with the Psycho Cut Psychic at 487. Then we have the Metagross that is now in the 6th spot at the Zen Headbutt Psychic. Then we have the Latios, we have the Celebi, and now look, Jirachi went from the place of 30 to the place of 10 in TDO, which is 445. And then if you want to check out the second page, we have the Latios, a little bit more tanky. We have the Mesprit, we have the Uxie, we have the Azelf, the Espeon, the Glade, the Gardevoir, and then the third page, if you want to go ahead and pause here, you can do so. But look at Alakazam all the way down there at the 25th and the 30th spot. Definitely more of an attacker DPS type Pokemon, a little bit more glassy. So now that I gave you those two, now what are you thinking, right? It's kind of confusing. You're like, well, is DPS better? Is TDO better? Which one should I power up? Because based on it being number one, DPS, you should power up Deoxys. TDO, you should power up Lugia. Is that the truth? The answer is definitely not, because now we're going to check out DPS times TDO, which is going to be the combination of those two stats to give us the best statistical outcome, and then we will judge it with our trainer brain. So now we're going to check out DPS times TDO, which is the best combination of these two to make sure we get you set up on the right track. So here we go right now, DPS times TDO. So before I put the Psystrike in, we're going to go with the top number 1 Mewtwo Confusion Psychic at 2351.8. Then we're going to check out the Mewtwo with the Cycle Cut Psychic at 1845. So just that moveset combination differential is going to be a 500 point difference, right? So if we wanted to insert the Mewtwo with the Confusion Psystrike, we are going to put him at the number 1 spot with a DPS times TDO at 2641.3. right? So he is going to sit at 300 points above the current Mewtwo as far as this psychic type attackers. So just the change in moveset is going to put him at 300 points above the current Mewtwo, which is pretty significant. It's going to put him 300 points above the best that is already out right now, and then it's going to put him at 900 points above the second best, which is just the same Mewtwo with a different moveset combination. That is how powerful a moveset differential can act towards your Pokemon's potential damage output and how much it's going to do over its entire lifespan, DPS and TDO combined. So back here we now have the Azelf with the 1584. So if you think about that, Azelf being the second best psychic attacker is over 1,000 points below the Mewtwo with the proper moveset with the Psystrike. Then we have another Azelf. Then we have the Espeon coming back in 1397. Then we have the Alakazam 1345. Another Alakazam, Latios at 1191. Lugia in the 9th spot actually overall, 1109. Then we have the Espeon again with a different moveset. And the Metagross is actually in the 11th spot. Zen Headbutt Psychic at 1088. And then if you want to go ahead and pause this, but now look at this before I get out. Deoxys attack form, 922 overall. He has the highest DPS. He is sitting at the 14th spot overall based on this new comparison. So you want to check out the Glade, the Gardevoir, and then if you want to go onto the 3rd page and pause here, if you want to check out some of these other Pokemon that you may have, that you may consider using, you can go ahead and check it out here. Now we are looking at something that has really been shaken up. We have a new, even topper psychic attacker, but the crazy thing is that Azelf being the second best psychic attacker, which we're going to have in our raid days coming up soon, is over 1,000 points lower than a Mewtwo with Psystrike, who is going to be very prevalent. So now what do we do, right? We have all the data, right? We're going to check out what the Psystrike is as far as its moveset, and then we are going to compare the Mewtwo with the Psystrike with the Mewtwo with the Shadow Ball, and then we will conclude what is the best thing for you to do with your dust and resources to make sure that you max out. So if we're just checking out the comparison of Psystrike, which is on the left, and then we're going to look at the Psychic on the right, right? So Psychic is the current move of the Mewtwo and Psystrike is the new move. So this is going to have a base power of 100 with a 2-bar move, damage window of 3 seconds, cooldown of 4 seconds, and a damage per energy of 2 with a DPE times DPS of 45.45. Then onto the Psychic, right? So this is the current move that it has base power of 100 and it has damage per second of 35.71 with a damage window of 1.3 seconds and a move cooldown of 2.8 seconds. Damage per energy of 1, DPE times DPS is 35. So that is 10 points below the new Psystrike move, and it's a 1-bar special. So obviously you can see why we get a bump up, right? So that's pretty cool. We basically have a very similar move, similar damage, but one is delivering at a 2-bar speed, one is delivering at a 1-bar speed, which is super effective. So now we want to check out, here's the real question that I think we should be asking ourselves is, number 1, can we TM it? We don't know, right? And how does it compare to Shadow Ball? So let's bump both of these movesets up against each other right now. So if we are going to look strictly at the Mewtwo with the Confusion Shadow Ball versus the Mewtwo with the Confusion Psystrike. So Mewtwo with Confusion Shadow Ball, 18.068 DPS, 566 for his TDO, and 3,336 for his DPS times TDO, which is extremely, extremely high, right? And then if we check out the Mewtwo with the Confusion Psystrike, 17.043 with DPS, 533 for TDO, and DPS times TDO is going to be 2641.3, which is about 700 points below the Mewtwo with the Shadow Ball. So guys, what does that mean for you? You're like, holy crap, that Shadow Ball is amazing. I know. Shadow Ball Mewtwo is absolutely amazing, and it doesn't even have stab for the Shadow Ball, meaning it's not a ghost type attacker, so it's not getting a boost on the Shadow Ball, but just based on his stats, it's incredible. So what do? My number one recommendation is obviously you're going to get a shiny Mewtwo that cannot get Shadow Ball because you cannot TM it because it's a legacy moveset. So you're obviously gonna have at least one potentially shiny that you may want to power up and max out with the Psystrike move, which is cool, right? Because he gets a lot of other really useful moves like Ice Beam, and he doesn't take the normal damages of the ice Pokemon, which is awesome. However, here it goes. This is my recommendation right here based on this. If we can TM the Psystrike into Mewtwo, I would suggest lucky trading with your friends who have these Shadow Ball Mewtwo's to be able to then have Shadow Ball and then have a second charge move, unlock that charge move to be Psystrike. That would be the absolute best scenario that you could have because you would have his two most powerful moves. He'd have stab effectiveness on his Psychic, and then you'd be able to have that. However, if you cannot TM him, it is definitely going to be worth to have a Mewtwo with Psychic, but don't max it out immediately. Wait until we need Psychic attackers in the game, and then I will let you guys know when we are going to power up this Mewtwo and when it will be best. But the best case scenario is to have it lucky traded so that you can max it out with 112,500 Stardust. If it is at level 20, if it's boosted, it's even less, instead of maxing it for 225,000 Stardust, right? So conserve your resources, save it up, save your lucky trades. We will then determine, and I will have a video, if we can TM it, we are going to do it this way, right? With the Shadow Ball and the Psystrike. If we cannot TM it, we are going to have both of them, right? But only when we have the Mewtwo with the Psychic as a necessary counter for the raid bosses. So that's gonna do it, guys. I super appreciate you guys. Let me know in the comments below if you have appreciated this or you use this for your advantage. I just wanna make sure you guys are maxing out on your resources. You know all the stats and you can take everything into account. And I appreciate all you guys for liking, sharing, subscribing, commenting. The shares help immensely, and everybody that is in my Patreon, I super appreciate you guys. I will see you out on the next video. Peace. I just want to take a moment and sincerely thank all of my Patreon members, everybody that has taken their subscription to the next level and chosen to support me on this platform. I greatly appreciate you guys. As a growing channel and really trying to grow and improve as much as I possibly can, I really appreciate the extra support. You guys mean the absolute world to me. I cannot wait to connect with you soon, and I appreciate you guys all for being a part of the Trainer Club. I will see you guys out on the next video.